Your Denver Broncos just got a massive silver lining after a game that seemed way too close against the winless New York Jets in London. We have some great news to break down and why the future is wildly bright and actually feeling better about this team after this win on the road than I was before the game even kicked off. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me in the algorithm out a ton. If you like the Broncos, smash that like and subscribe button. So a lot of people on Twitter and all over the internet who are down on the Broncos right now, but there are a couple things that I think Epic Normie points out absolutely perfect here. This was a kitchen sink game for Aaron Glenn and the New York Jets, like being 0-5. They just talk about in NFL locker rooms, when you haven't had a win, it is like a close family member died when you were in the locker room. Like there's just this tightness that exists throughout the whole team. And so it was a kitchen sink game. We saw fake punts. We saw them going for it on fourth, throwing out all of the stops, and your Denver Broncos still come out with a win. You also look at the emotional letdown after going in last week and beating a team that no one thought we had a chance at the Philadelphia Eagles. It would be easy for the Broncos to be feeling their oats and not come out with a win. This is a game that multiple Broncos teams that I've watched throughout my fandom would find a way to lose, and they found a way to win. And then we know like London is just a really, really weird vibe. Like you got a bunch of people wearing Jacksonville Jaguars. Like it does not feel like a normal football game, and the Broncos are now 4-2, and we're tied for the division lead. And I think the Broncos are in great shape. You add in on that the fact that last year, how many games did the Chiefs end up winning that they had no business of winning? And they didn't care. They were just racking up those dubs and took it all the way to the Super Bowl. And that is the sign of a good team, that they were 11-0 in one-score games. Well, your Broncos have now learned how to win close games these past two games, winning it within one score and just finding a way to close out in a way that we didn't against the Chargers and the Colts. So you even see progress from this team winning close games this year when we weren't earlier. And I think Romy Bean points it out absolutely perfect here. This was a brutal stretch of our schedule, and we all said that when the schedule was released. So we're like, wait, we have to play a Monday Night Football game against the Cincinnati Bengals and then go to Philly and then go to London. That game against the Bengals right here that was like, again, could have been a trap game. Your Broncos blow them out. That was 13 days ago and 5,000 miles away from where these dudes sleep every night. And so I think the Broncos just came out of this stretch that was the hardest stretch of our season, 3-0, and you have to be feeling fantastic about that. Again, Sean Payton, the winningest coach in the month of October. This momentum now, we now have this opportunity to have 4 of the next 5 of our games now at home. Seeing a Cowboys team today who lose to the Panthers, who aren't good, knowing that we have a rookie quarterback coming to our house next week, I just am feeling very, very bright about that. Then you just have to take your hat off and just say, this Denver Broncos defense is historic, and we don't want to compare them to the Von Miller defense and the no-fly zone, but my goodness, guys, we need to start comparing them to that because this defense is absolutely wild. You are looking at the best contract in professional sports is the contract the Broncos signed Nick Bonito to, because he is the all-time record holder when it comes to consecutive games with multiple sacks, knowing that he's been going against incredible offensive lines. Today was not a great offensive line, but Colts and Chargers and Eagles have 3 of the best offensive lines in football, and still Nick Bonito has multiple sacks in 4 straight games. That is absolutely wild. Even today, during his press conference, it was right between Pat Surtain gave his remarks, and then Nick Bonito came on, and Pat Surtain says, "Depoy," like DPOY, like he's the defensive player of the year, and he absolutely is. You look at what the Broncos did to shut this team down that scored 32 points against the Steelers when they still had Watt healthy. They scored 10 points on the Bills, not great. They only scored 9 points on us today, knowing that 2 of those points were a safety. They scored 27 points against the Bucs, who have a great defense, 21 on the Dolphins, 22 on the Cowboys. So the Broncos just bottled up everything that they wanted to do, and this defense, it just is going to feed families. This defense is on pace to be as good as the last defense we had when we won a Super Bowl. And I don't think that's like a hometown take to say that. Like, this defense is wild. You look here that Justin Fields, -10 net passing yards. He had as many sacks as he had completions in that game. He was seeing ghosts, and he was terrified of the Broncos, and he should be. This was not only the worst performance in New York Jets history, and we know they've had some really bad quarterbacks, but it's also the worst throwing performance in the past 27 years. So Sean Payton has broken all of these streaks, and he broke another one today. I guess more Vance Joseph broke that streak. Then you're looking at like this defense just has actually better things ahead of it, knowing that we're getting Dre Greenlaw back. We're actually playing against worse offensive lines in the future, 3 of the best offensive lines we've already played. We've seen Riley Moss take strides forward, and if we get Dre Greenlaw back anytime over the next 4 or 5 weeks, the Broncos are going to be set to be the best defense that we have had here, and I'm going to stake my claim on that. This is the week that we can start to activate Dre Greenlaw. We know the Broncos activated Malcolm Roach the week before, and then it sat him out one more week, so maybe that's what the Broncos do with the New York Giants coming to town, and that we get him back the following week, but we'll definitely keep you updated of all that. Broncos are now on pace to not only break the Broncos record for sacks that we had last year, but I think they're set to shatter the NFL record for sacks in a season. That was the 84. The Bears had 72. The Broncos are on track right now. Obviously, there's more games than were played then, but on pace for 85 sacks. It is absolutely mind-blowing, and everyone who said that that's not like a replicatable thing, like, oh, the Broncos are going to regress here when it comes to sacks, we've actually surged even further forward and have so many people we have to give shout-outs to on that front. So just seeing here that this was the 9th defense in NFL history to already have 30 sacks this far. Some teams will be thrilled to have 30 sacks in an entire season, and your Broncos are already there at week number 6. And Sean Payton was so thrilled with this defensive performance that he gave them the game ball. I think part of the conservatism we saw towards the end of that game was Sean Payton just truly knowing this Jets offense is not going to move the ball on us. And so let's just get out of here with a win and no major injuries. And I think you see that in who he gave the game ball to. The fact that Sean Payton after that game did a 30-minute press conference shows me like he knows that wasn't our best performance, but he's not mad about it. He knows that this was a really tough 3-week stretch that we just came out of 3-0, and that's phenomenal. 9 sacks in this game, 15 times we hit Justin Fields, 7 tackles for loss, and 4 passes defended. This Broncos defense is absolutely wild, you guys, and it was not just Nick Bonito. We saw a lot of guys get into the action in this game. Loved seeing Jonathan Cooper getting some love. I think he's probably my second favorite player on that Broncos defense. I think it's got to go Bonito and then Cooper. His get off is almost as fast as Nick Bonito's, and we know that there's a lot of times last week in that Philadelphia Eagles game where he played really, really disciplined pass rush there, where he did not allow Jalen Hurts to scramble, and he didn't have all the sacks that he probably could have had he just violated his lane and tried to go inside, but then Hurts could have escaped outside and really hurt us. So appreciation post here for Jonathan Cooper because he looked phenomenal. A couple other things in here that are huge silver linings is that first quarter of that game, the Broncos offense looked exactly like what you wanted them to look like. You saw Bo Nix have 11 for 12 for 96 yards. And after that, it was like there was a, some sort of switch up there on the New York Jets defense, and the Broncos did not counter with that, and that was frustrating. But at the end of the day, I think there is so much more to be excited about because we've seen this team do whatever it takes to get a win over these past 2 weeks, and we know that Bo Nix was like a slow grower last year, right? That it was through those first 4 weeks, we didn't look good on offense. And by the end, Bo Nix had the 6th most touchdowns in football. And I think that's just going to continue to happen, especially because we saw some flashes out of Evan Ingram over these past 2 games. And we've not had a tight end on this team over these past 2 seasons until Evan Ingram. We know last year the Broncos were 31st or 32nd in every tight end metric, from yards to catches to touchdowns. They were the worst or the second to worst in all of football. And Evan Ingram is a difference maker now that he is healthy. And Bo Nix even talked about that. Like, he is a mismatch nightmare, and I expect to see a lot more of Evan Ingram moving forward. Then the other part is like Matt Peart came in there, and we'd all expected it to be Palczewski as the guy who got the nod there for the injured Ben Powers. It ended up being Matt Peart, who truly hurt us. Several game-killing penalties or drive-killing penalties from Matt Peart, and I think the Broncos have a lot of options. So obviously you could put Palczewski in that spot. We saw him step in last year and not really miss a beat for Mike McGlinchey. So I think that's a really easy switch you could do. The other thing is that you could put Wattenberg, who has been playing center, over at that left guard position, and then put Forsythe in at center, who isn't a huge drop-off from Wattenberg. So I think the Broncos really have 2 moves if Sean Payton is not happy with how that pocket held up, not happy with our run game. I think we have several options there, and that's just a really, really good place to be. And the other thing is that I think the Broncos have been absolutely killed by penalties, and I take that as a silver lining because I think you get those cleaned up, and this is a totally different ballgame. That we came into the game just being atrocious when it comes to the amount of penalties that we had. And then today wasn't much better. How many times were drives killed by holds? We know Sean Payton hates being behind the sticks. We had, a false start by Pat Bryant. We don't love. So I think there's a lot of meat on the bone there that the Broncos still haven't gnawed off. And we are 4-2 at this point without having come anywhere close to playing our best game. And I just love that aspect here. And then the last thing is, I don't think the officials helped us at all in this game. Just the fumble here. The Broncos recover a fumble already in field goal range. And, obviously that changes the final score of this game. This was the play here where he absolutely makes a football move and tries to get the ball out of the way of Pat Surtain's Peanut Tillman punch there. And somehow this was ruled not a fumble. Whereas if you just watched early in that game, one of the things that killed one of our first drives was a Troy Franklin fumble that was every bit like it was the exact same play as we had here. So Broncos clean up the penalties. We get a more favorable whistle. We get more favorable refereeing, and I think the Broncos are in fantastic shape here. They are still going to make a deep, deep run in the playoffs. You were talking about being tied for the lead in the AFC West. You go, road games are tough, and the Chargers barely escape a hapless Dolphins team without their best offensive player in Tyreek Hill. I love where the Broncos are at. We're making a deep run in the playoffs, and we got so much to believe in. Oh.